Thank you. Okay. Everybody okay? So when we start over here, you got to start with quality green beans. There are people that are trained in that. They choose the quality green beans, and then the rest of them go to the bad place. They have to be roasted carefully. The coffee geeks like medium roast, maybe a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, but definitely not dark roast. So those that roast dark, we call that the land of bad coffee. Then once they're roasted, you've got around 10 days to get it brewed and drink it. That's not very long, which means pretty much everything you find in a grocery store that's prepackaged, it's gone. It's dead. And then the last step of the journey is the preparation. You can have a good bean all the way to this point, but if you put it on a burner and it cooks all day, or if you don't prepare it right, then you've lost it. So the focal point right now is going to be on quality green beans, roasting, and drinking them. So how do you get that if you're not going to go to Walmart? You've got to go to a small roaster, and you can do that. There are some locally, or you can get it on the web, and they'll tell you when they're roasted, and you can usually get them within a few days. Or you can home roast, and that's what I do. I quickly, just because of budgetary reasons, the local roaster, I like to use them, but it was $10, $11, $12 a pound, and so I realized that for about $5 a pound, I could roast at home. And once I started doing it, it's a lot of fun. So that's what I'm going to start doing right now is roasting. And we're going to roast up some. We'll start with some Mexican here. It's going to smoke a little bit, so I hope it's okay.
How you put this thing together.
Okay.
I started one of these things too after the pump.
Okay, this is called a Stir Crazy Turbo Oven Combo. On the Coffee Geek site, people will do SC/TO. Stir Crazy Turbo Oven. This is a turbo oven, and I bought this one already made on the internet. Some guy was putting them together, but they're not very hard to make. You got to find a Stir Crazy popcorn popper. $29. You've got to replace the center spindle with a little cap, a little brass cap. Can he get a mic? That's okay. All right, he does have a voice. And then what we have here is another important thing when you're roasting is to get them cooled quickly. So this is a shop vac cooling bucket I bought this off the internet too, but you can see any of y'all can make this. Just a 5-gallon bucket with a dog bowl in the middle. So when the beans are done, you throw them in there, turn the shop vac on for a couple of minutes, and that cools them fast and makes does something to the sugars, when it cools them fast. I forgot what that's called. Can you hear? Sometimes I'm hearing this and sometimes I'm not. You're okay with that? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's start roasting.
If you decide you don't want to go this route, if you've got just a decent little room fan, get a colander. You dump the beans out of the colander, and you pretty much accomplish, the same thing. This is just a little more high-tech and cool. But coffee can be as high-tech as you want or as low-tech as you want to be. It won't change the quality of the coffee. What he especially is referring to in the espresso window refers quite often to espresso. So you definitely don't want to drink beans and roast it for espresso after 12, 14 days after they're not going to give you that nice crema, that nice thickness that you get. If you're drinking your coffee as a drip or a press pot, those kinds of French press that you can see over here. I'm just going to talk while he's doing that.
Yeah, that's great.
Like this, the French press you all seen that. At that point, if the coffee's a little bit older, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. You got a 2 to 3 week window there. But what we like to do, we talk about a couple of things. Number one, coffee's about 90-something% water. So if you direct in, direct out. You put Cumberland Valley water in, you're going to get. That's what you're going to get. I use a Brita for just about all my water. It reduces the mineral content just enough so you don't calcify your machines too much. And it softens it, and it also, of course, takes out the impurities flavor-wise. So I just think the Brit is the way to go for your coffee needs. I chose this manner of storing. It's just a one-way valve bag. You know, Bosch makes some of these, but basically it sort of lets the CO2 out but doesn't let the oxygen in. Coffee, as it roasts, as it evaporates, the water, moisture evaporates out, will throw off the CO2, which is a reason that we all say if you do roast coffee, you don't want to drink it the first 6 to 8 to 10 hours you got Alka-Seltzer. It's going to have just a whole lot of carbonation in it. So you want to let it, what we call, rest for a while, just like you would a wine or a beer or anything else. You kind of let it rest and let the flavors develop in the bean itself. I know you're going to cover that stuff, but...
No, go ahead. You're doing good.
But even in the roasting process, we don't just slam heat on and just kind of let it go. You want to allow the bean to develop. What bean are you roasting now?
It's an organic Mexican.
Right.
It is organic.
The higher coffee bean is grown, the harder it is. The lower it's grown, like a Brazilian bean. Thank you, man. A Brazilian bean might. Oh.
Stick that somewhere.
My daughter who I brought her, would probably say the same thing. Brazilian beans are grown lower. Most of the time you go to a truck stop or whatever, you're going to get cheap Brazilian. Hello? Testes, 1, 2.
It's not picking up.
Not picking up?
Maybe it's over here.
All right. The cheap Brazilian bean is what they use, or Vietnamese bean. It's why when you get a cup of it someplace, and about 5 miles you got to go to the bathroom. I'll explain it. 2 different kinds of coffee beans. One's called Arabica, which you're probably aware of. Another one's called Robusta. Robusta's got about 2.5 times as much caffeine as a regular coffee bean, as an Arabica bean does. That's therefore when you drink a truck stop coffee, you're going to get buzzed pretty good because it's mostly cheap, 30 cents a pound Robusta. So we want to get you off that stuff because it doesn't do anything for your kidneys either.
You want to just. I don't know why it's not picking up. It's in and out, guys.
I don't mind yelling. Anyway, so basically what you want to do is just avoid those kind of coffees. On the road, Dunkin' Donuts, decent. Better than Starbucks, in my opinion, a lot cheaper. But we like to store our beans. Once they're roasted, we like to put them in these valve bags. It really preserves them. That way, once you go in there and get your coffee, yeah, sure.
Yeah, here, let me.
And once you won't have just an enormous boiling smell. What do you do with a bulb, believe it or not? When you open it up, they spray it. That coffee is so old, you'll not believe it. They have an artificial spray. They spray that coffee so when you open the can, all of a sudden you don't smell that coffee. It ain't coffee. Okay, this won't have an enormous smell. It's just 7 days old. But I mean, you notice the degree in which this coffee is roasted. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to smell that, especially by temperature. But what he's doing, he's going to taste it. We never leave our roasters, by the way, because you just never know what can happen. You want to keep an eye. The steam evaporate off that green there. This particular device, whether this part you get the little tap, you can get it. Home Depot for $3 the copper cap. Probably $30, probably $9 total, including shipping. And your roasting coffee, I just roast at least 12 ounces of 14 ounces in there.
Now, John, I've got the BMR up here. Robert was on the beta testing
For this
home roasting unit.
until this came along, you know it better than I do. Until this came along, you could not roast at home for more than half a pound, or actually it was less than that. It was about a cup.
We all started with popcorn coffee. Are you hearing that?
Yeah, did you hear that?
Tell them what's going on.
Okay, this is called the first crack. If you can count to 2, you can roast home coffee. After 5 or 6 minutes, you get what's called the first crack. I don't know if y'all heard. You're hearing it? Sounds a little bit like popcorn. And then there'll be a pause between about a minute or two between the first crack and the second crack. The second crack is lighter and a little bit brighter sounding. Yeah, like Rice Krispies. That's the second crack. And so in between the first crack and the second crack is the range that most home roasters aim for. Once you get well into the second crack, it's starting to get dark and oily, that's not good. That's a myth. The darker and oilier the bean, the better. What that means is that you've pushed all the oils out onto the surface of the bean where they're going to stale very quickly. So, oh yeah.
Generally 8 months to a year. If you figure a few months, it might be on a boat or somewhere else. But generally, if you keep the greens in a nice cool place, at least 8 months to 10 months, I would say.
Yeah, okay. I think you can freeze green beans, can't you? Here, we can pass these around if y'all want to take a look at green beans. Those I got from the Green Coffee Buying Club. I believe that's the name, right? I've got the website on here. Yeah. Well, I wanted you to tell them a little bit about the Be More.
It's got an afterburner, which will eat up the smoke inside. And as long as you don't get the black and oily, you shouldn't see any smoke. Now, you might set off a little bit of your CO2 alarm in your house. I still recommend using them in a garage or in an open space. But they are, you can do up to a pound in them, and they will do a really, really nice job. Of course, you're talking about $299.
But before the Be More came along, to do a pound of coffee got you up into the $600, $700, $800 range. So that's the reason it was an innovative thing. And a home roaster came up with it, right?
Not well. More of an inventor. Joe was an inventor. He truly doesn't even drink a lot of coffee, nor
Okay.
But I had a chance to stay out with him in San Diego. But he just loves it, and he wanted to give guys something for a fair price that did the job. His customer service is wonderful. It isn't set and forget. It isn't Ronco, though it kind of looks that way. You really want to be around your roaster. Doesn't mean you have to stare in it every minute, but you want to be around it.
Yeah, I've lost a few batches by I put it on, I set a timer, and I go in the house, and then I forget, I don't hear the timer, and I go running out there. I haven't set a fire yet. You're still on the first crack, coming to the end of it.
I do something on mine sometimes. If I want to prolong the roast, as it's in the middle of first, I'll lift the top up for a second, and then I'll drop it down. All it is just allow a little bit of air in it to slowly. Now drop it down. Don't ignore him.
Yeah, I'm learning as we go here.
For a second, it's just going to slow that roast down for a second because I don't want it to go right from first crack into second crack. You lose the sweetness. So he's going to allow this bean to go a little bit longer. You're going to stop it. When do you think you want to stop it?
I normally stop them as it heads into the second crack.
Okay. Well, for that particular bean, now every bean wants a different treatment. Not all beans want to go to what they call second crack. Some of them like Kenya. If you like that nice bright taste of a Kenya. If you like your coffees with a brighter taste, you don't allow them to go to second crack. You stop them before second crack. If you like your bean to have a little bit of that smoky flavor, then you allow it to go to second crack. We don't legislate how you like your coffee. For espresso guys, we do some beans where we let it go to second, and some beans we might stop it just short to keep the fruit of it, because coffee is a fruit. It's not a vegetable. It actually is a cherry. So you get weird, neat flavors like blueberry out of Ethiopian Harars. I mean, that could be a whole talk here just about different kinds of coffee.
In the blueberry thing, I read about that as I began to become a home roaster, and I didn't quite believe it. I thought, well, these guys they're coming up with these terms to describe things they don't know. Because I'd never smelled blueberry in a coffee before, because I had never done fresh roasted coffee. And it wasn't too long after that I had roasted some Ethiopian.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I opened the can up one morning and I got a whiff of blueberry. It's not as strong as they've said. That years past there was some crop year that had some incredible blueberries they all talk about now.
If somebody wants to reach in and take a bean and chew it, the thing, you won't smell the incredible rush on the bean because the flavor stays inside. We don't have the oils on the outside. If the oil was on the outside of that coffee, you would be smelling it more. But if anybody wants to, they can like chew a bean you can kind of get the essence of what that bean tastes like.
I hear second crack.
Are you okay? Well, I do too.
What do you think? Okay, coming off. I had this bowl because I was losing them from there to here.
Should I lift this off the surface of that table?
Yeah, you better. You put it back on there. This thing this
cleaning the chaff.
Yeah. This thing cools them down so quickly you can begin to stir them with your hand. And it'll just take a couple of minutes and they'll be done. Okay. Now, if you want to, am I still on? Can y'all hear me? I think this thing, you can? Okay, yeah, let me have the mic. Thank you. Okay, if you want to roast beans as cheaply as possible, I have not tried this, but you get an aluminum dog bowl and a heat gun and something to stir with. And this is supposed to give you maximum control because you're there with the bean the whole time. And you can tell just when it gets to the color and the crack that you want. So this is not a bad way to roast from what I understand. I haven't tried it. Have you ever tried the dog bowl method?
No, I haven't. I've tried, most roasters come with popcorn coffee. So if you want to just roast a little bit of coffee, it's a little quicker process. That's real quick because you go bang, bang, bang. But the poppers you want have to have the vents on the side, not on the bottom, or you could have a cat fire. So you want to, if you go to a thrift store for $4, you can find a Poppery 2 or a Festo, one of those, for $4. And it'll either don't use an extension cord or you'll spawn your roast. You can roast about, you want to put in about maybe a little short of 2/3 of a cup by volume. And it'll yield about 4 to 5 ounces, enough for about a pot and a half of coffee.
Yeah, that's the disadvantage of the popcorn method. It's very popular. I mean, it's very cheap, but you don't end up with a lot of beans. Whereas this dog bowl method, you can do a pound or so. And here it is towards the end of the roast. It would be about the same as to do it right. It's about 13 to 15 minutes. Is that correct?
It's so replaceable. If you this is a great method. If this thing burns out or something happens, they're $59. These things are $29. So now what I did on mine was I disconnected the heater on this lower end. You didn't disconnect yours, right?
I haven't done it yet.
Well, all I can say is it didn't seem to be deleterious to your roast. Your roast looks
Except
great.
it was kind of fast. It's only taken me 9 or 10 minutes to roast.
Yeah.
And he says that's a little bit too quick.
Well, you want to get to first crack a little. You don't want to get there, boom, like this, only because you allow the coffees to develop. But all in all, it's a great way to do it. I have 2 of the Beamers because I really like them and I didn't have to pay for them. So, well, I did a lot of research. I mean, I spent probably 60, 70 hours and about $200 of my own money on beans.
Yeah, right.
But while we're just doing that, it's one thing to roast it. It's another thing on preparing coffee because people go out and they spend $100, $150. Can you hear me? They spend $150 on some sort of device, drip device to make their coffee. Coffee needs to be brewed about 200 degrees. If you don't brew it at proper temperature, it's just not going to taste very good. It's going to be bitter or it's going to be sour. So we try to go for around 200 degrees. I have a kettle, one of those electric kettles.
Oh,
Soon
you
as
brought, I just realized you brought the Be-More.
No, I didn't. Someone else did.
Oh, okay.
So it was very kind. But I just, you know, I just like the electric kettle because as soon as it boils, it shuts off. You wait about 20 seconds and it comes down to temperature. Lots of ways to brew your coffee, lots of ways to grind your coffee. We try to avoid what we call the sort of bean crusher thing, which is a 16-buck thing where you push your hand down and you grind the beans with a whirly blade thing. It's okay. It's better than nothing. It's better than a mortar and a pestle. But we like to have a little bit more sophistication with something with what they call a burr, and I'm sure you know what burr grinders are. Back in the old days, they used these. I still use this for my espresso. They do make these in the 40s and 50s, and earlier they were made as actually strictly for espresso, not to do these methods. You have to know what you're buying, but this will actually do 14 grams of coffee in about 60 minutes, and it does a great job. $75. This is a grinder that you can buy online. You can buy the refurbed version for $63. It's a $129 grinder made by Baratza. It is really the last grinder you'll ever need if all you're doing is making coffee for your press pot, for your drip. You won't need another grinder. You don't want to do espresso in it. Espresso needs to have its own sort of grinder, a grinder that's designed to go to the finer grind without getting chunky, uneven grind. He's got one over there. I've got one myself at home. But if basic, and there's just so many different ways. Did you get something?
Yeah, I was just.
Go
you're
ahead.
starting to talk about the different ways.
Go.
Okay. All right, we're gonna brew up a little bit right here. We don't have enough to brew all y'all up. We don't have enough time either. But I wanted to tell you a quick story about this little gizmo here that Robert has. I didn't know that they made these. I came up with a method just like this for use in an office. This is really neat. And Robert, we ought to do that, and we'll do my.
What's cool about this is that when you pour the water in, instead of it automatically dripping out, this guy's got a little thing here, like a brew stop. You just set it down and steep your coffee. What I like to do, actually, the new ones, they're like $12 over at a place called Sweet Maria's. They're a Sweet Maria's is a coffee retailer that sells green beans and other paraphernalia to us guys at the roasters. And Tom, the owner, came up with this thing. He just said, this way you just pour your water in, and then it's, you know, I'm using this top. He throws it down. He's going to be making tops. I just let it steep about 3.5 minutes. Then you can stir it if you want to. Then as soon as you set it on the cup, it triggers the bottom, and then it drips out. So you can walk away, do whatever you want to do, go to the bathroom, read for 3 minutes, and then come back, put this on your cup, and you'll have hot coffee. And it's doing a hand pour method is one of the best ways to make a good coffee. It really is better than a machine. The machine is just spitting water out, and the more that water dwells in that coffee, the more caffeine you extract, what you wanted, and the bitters you extract. If you can get it directly like this, 3 minutes to get it out, you're going to get a more pure, sweet cup of coffee.
There's nothing complicated about an electric coffee maker. It is purely a tool of convenience. And when you learn how to make it by hand, the only convenience it is that you don't have to sit there and pour water over. It pours the water over the grounds for you. That's all an electric coffee maker does. And so we were making them at work, and we got a little bit crazy with it, making coffee all the time, having big coffee discussions, bringing in, there's a lady at work that roasts coffee too. We were bringing coffees in all the time and comparing the flavors, and it was kind of a camaraderie building thing. Anyway, we were out of roasted beans one day, and I'd just gotten a shipment of green beans in. So I said, I think I can get them roasted in the toaster oven. So I went in the office. I work in a building on 3rd Avenue at 3rd and Commerce, the Commerce Center. And so I went in the kitchen, and I put about a quarter pound of green beans on the toaster oven and turned it on, and then just started waiting. And it took about the right amount of time, and then it started popping. And I looked in there, and the stuff at the back was getting dark too quick. So I grabbed a plastic spoon and started reaching in there and stirring as I could stand it. And then the smoke started. And So there was this, just like it's in here, there was a fine layer of smoke all the way through the office. And when the department vice president came in, the receptionist said, "Brent," and she's like, "Okay." So, and the maintenance men from the building came up. Somebody's reported smelling smoke. Anyway, so I was told, don't ever do that again. Take your coffee mess, put it up. You know, you can't do that. So what I did is I came up with what I call the stealth method, which turns out to be the same thing as what Robert has. And, oh, yeah, right here. Okay, he's going to grind up some of his roast, that's going to be good. Here, I just got to turn it around. Okay, and I'm going to show y'all how to make coffee at your desk as discreetly as possible.
How can I use that?
Are you going to use this?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some hot water from that.
Oh yeah, use that.
Into this thing here.
Okay, use that. I can use a styrofoam cup.
Check.
Peanuts or something. The aroma, because it hasn't had a chance to develop that coffee aroma.
Yeah, you hear the first crack starting? This is Indian coffee.
You put a good roast on that one, though. That was an excellent roast, my friend.
Thank you. And okay, so here's what you do. You get you some of these little cone-style filters, and then you put it down in the cup, and then you're going to put a couple of heaping tablespoons in here. So roast me some too. I mean, grind me some.
Here. Go take that.
Okay.
Put them first here.
All right. Now, and then you go to the hot water dispenser in your kitchen, at work. And you're going to just put in, don't fill it to the top, because you can add hot water later. You just want to cover the grounds. I've got it about half full of water. And you can see the orange foam forming there. So we're going to let that sit for, somebody tell me when 4 minutes is up. We've done tests at work, and we got 4 minutes seems to be the right. So it's just sitting in there. So if somebody walks by my office, oh, he's got a cup of coffee there. I see it smoking a little bit. No big deal.
Well, you're brave. You got a lot of beans in that thing there.
Yeah, I've done over a pound, but it's not necessarily even. Now I wanted to show you this too. I made this to commemorate the roasting in the toaster oven. I made a little sculpture. This is this actual spoon. The end of it's curled a little because it melted. See it work. Very well. Avant to
Test.
Actually, and the best I've had was over at Robert's house, and the double shot that I drank was actually so sweet, I thought he had put sugar in it. I mean, when espresso's made right, it is sweet. It's very strong. I mean, you really taste the coffee flavor, but there's a real sweetness to it. So there's a book by David Schomer called Espresso Coffee Professional Techniques. And if you get on Coffee Geek and just type in Schomer, you'll see all kinds of stuff. People refer to that. And this is his opinion, his way of doing it. And, you know, there's a wide range here. People in coffee all have strong opinions, but there's a lot of different ways to make it. Oh, we are? What do you think there, Robert?
Well, I think it looks about right.
All right.
I mean, we'll be right where you want it because I'm hearing some snaps. All right. I guess you can hear that. Hello, Sting. All right. Let this steep another minute and a half or so. I want to make some French press too. Bless you. All right. I'm going to demonstrate it on the top, and then when you end up with it, it's
How's it look?
looks good. It's real nutty.
We'll let that go for about 30 more seconds. What's that? Oh, great. Okay, he said my stealth coffee is ready. Okay, so 4 minutes is up. You got a trash can by your desk. You just reach in here. You kind of gather up your little cone filter. And you lift it out. And I've actually done this with one hand on the mouse and just kind of held it like this. Look like I'm working. You can give it a little squeeze if you want. All right, and then that's like a coffee concentrate, and I add a little bit of hot water to it.
There are, ooh, hello.
All right, that's me right there by
There
you.
are, of course, large devices that you can pour. You know, the Melita, which is a sort of filter cone. You put your filter in, and you say you grind enough coffee for 6 or 8 cups, and you just pour it, and you pour a little more, and you pour a little more. Those are great. But a lot of times you just by yourself. You don't really
Here, let me add a little more hot water.
You know, 4 cups of coffee to drink one. We kind of figured that having these smaller devices would give you all some, you know, chance to do it at your desk. So this guy is done. When possible, when you're doing a drip method, try not to let all the water go through, because the last little bit of that water is going to be a wee bit on the bitter side. So I'm going to stop it right there. This is going to be a little bit strong because I was going to use the little larger mug. But this should be fine. Now you'll see I can set this right down there. It's cool.
That thing's great.
Yeah.
Then you're fully in control with how long the water hits the grounds. Once you kind of start doing it this way, when you go to do the electric machine and you look at and you realize that it decides how much and when, you're going to suddenly feel way out of control.
Anybody want a cup of coffee?
Y'all can come up and try this if you want. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about the espresso machines. What I brought here, there are basically 3 or 4 different types of espresso machines. The cheapest type we don't even talk about. That's the ones you see at garage sales for $10, the Krupps, and there's some other ones. They work off steam pressure, and it takes them a couple of minutes to get a double shot. Temperature of the water's all wrong, so that doesn't really count. They start with a machine like this. This one here on the table is a Gaja, And it's a semi-automatic, and semi-automatic means that it automatically pumps for you, but you decide when to turn the pump on and off. An automatic machine, you program in, I want this much water for this long. I really like a semi-automatic. I mean, for home, why do you need the extra programming ability? This one works off a pump. I should have started with what Robert has on the screen because that's the original espresso machine that was invented back around the turn of the century. It does not have a pump. You provide the pump with your arm. When the arm goes up, it pulls water into the chamber, and when the arm comes down, it pushes water through the ground coffee.
They do make versions they call spring-loaded machines. Those are the ones that the lever starts like that. My lever normally is down. You lift it up, infuse the water becomes infused through the piston, and then you push the water down. The lever machines that have the springs look like that. You push it down and hold it. But then as soon as you want to let it up, as soon as you think enough water is kind of gone into that tube, you let it go, and the spring will come up, and it will provide that same pressure that I do pushing down. Okay. They're more common professionally, the spring levers, but for us guys, we kind of like the whole manual vibe of it. It's really, they're fun. You can find versions of this for as little as $250.
Now, look on the inside of these things. I mean, there's nothing, no fancy stuff here. This is just plumbing and a lot of brass. This machine that I have here is called a Salvatore. It is built by an Italian immigrant in California. He lives in Solvang, California. And he's been making them for 10 or 15 years. And this is a very popular type of machine for coffee geeks called a heat exchanger. It has a single large boiler, and inside the boiler it has a heat exchanger that exchanges the heat within the boiler for the brewing temperature. So with a single boiler, you get 3 temperatures of water. Out of this side, you get steam, which comes off the top of the boiler. You get steam to steam milk. Over here, you get the actual water out of the bottom of the boiler. You just get straight hot water. And then the heat exchanger going in the middle here, Robert, correct me where I'm wrong. The heat exchanger here sends water into the hot water, and it comes out of the espresso head at the right temperature. So you get 3 things out of one really nice big boiler. This machine weighs 55 pounds, and 35 pounds of that is brass. And what I like about it is, well, you can come up and take a look. It's got an S right here where Salvatore himself tested it and signed it. We put an S right there. And this machine cost about $1,600. He's come out with a new one, though, called the One Black, which is the guts of this machine, but not quite as much stainless steel, and it's about $1,100. And it's really a good deal for a heat exchanger.
Brent, excuse me just one second. I'm going to demonstrate this.
Oh, yeah, you got to see how he does. See the orange foam?
I don't have anything to stir this with. I didn't want to wash my hands and use the end of that. It'll be all right. I'm going to just take this, and I'm going to just get it to go slightly under that foam.
Did y'all hear that? He's taking his French press and pushing it slightly under the foam.
And I'm going to wait about 3 minutes. Why do you want to reduce the foam? Well, it just gives the coffee more body. The foam has a lot of sweetness in it. It's the essence of it. As that water, hot water, hits that bean, it explodes that flavor. That's why all us folks that do the espresso as well, we seek the crema. When you get a shot that has all those emulsified oils in it, they give you that sweetness. Otherwise, you just get full black water, keep on rolling. So, you save the little cheapo.
No, that's okay. All right, so the other thing I like about the Salvatore is, and I was going to make some espresso today, but my heating element went out. It's about 3 years old, and the heating element went out. I want to talk to him and find out why. So I called him, because it's got a 6-year warranty, and I said, I guess I need to send my machine back. And they said, no. Do you know how to, are you somewhat handy? And I said, I think I'm okay. And they said, all right, we're sending you a picture. And so they showed me how to turn the machine over, unbolt it, take the heating element out, and ship it to them. They're going to send me another one, and I'll bolt it in. They said when somebody doesn't know about mechanical things, she said, we'll send them the tool with the instructions, and then they send the tools back with the heating element. So they would love your kind of people. You people. Sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody. You people. They would love you people.
I'm not mechanical at all, but there's nothing in these machines that can't be done at home. All the parts can be replaced. Everything can be. I was scared to death when I took the group off the group head, they call it, off, where you put the portafilter in. That's called portafilter. I was scared to death the first time. Then it's just a bunch of bolts, a bunch of bolts and stuff. And it really, these things are, for you guys, would be a piece of cake. And they're fun, to work on, really and truly. They're fun. A lot of guys manufacture little parts if they need to, but usually you don't. There's plenty of parts around and people to fix them. I'm going to let that go just a minute.
Okay.
Are
Are we ready for questions? You want to press go?
Oh, you're timing that.
We're about to get a French press here. Now, the coffee that I've roasted, I brought some little plastic bags. So I don't have enough for everybody to get them, but anybody that wants some, I'll distribute it out in little bags. You can take some home and grind it up if you want. Try it out. Because one of the home roasters' mantras is bad home roasted coffee is still better than what you buy at a store. So you really just can't miss. You had a question?
I was just curious. I've heard varying opinions on how long the coffee's good after it's ground.
Oh, about 5 minutes. By the way, I want to talk about something here. The grind itself. When I ground coffee for this little guy, I went with a just finer than a drip grind, not stone, not salt. Well, maybe close to salt. No coarser than that. When I use an immersion method like French press, if I go too fine, I'm going to get a lot of sludge. So you tend to want to grind it a little bit coarser for using this kind of guy as opposed to using this kind of guy. And of course, with espresso, you're going to go to something that's pretty close to sugar. It's going to have a feeling of sugar, maybe a bit finer than sugar. And you want to feel the grind and maybe a little of it stick to you. Okay, now this is ready to pour. So I'm going to go ahead and pour half cups. Yeah, please do it. Yes. And let you see. This, for anybody that's curious, you go to Baratza, B-A-R-A-T-Z-A, Baratza.com, and just go to where it says refurbs, because it's the same 1-year guarantee. These things will last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You change the burrs out about every 3 for $10. That's about it. And these are workhorse grinders for $63. They're better than the crap that you see at a Target or something. They're really much better. The company makes nothing but grinders.
Now, when it comes to espresso, the rule is roughly you need to spend half as much on your grinder as you do on your machine. So I'm out of balance. I've got a $200 grinder, a $1,600 machine. I really need to get about an $800 Super Jolly, which
No, they're not that much used for $350.
used for $350. Okay, new they're about $600 or $700, I think. But really, the grind is extraordinarily important, and a lot of people don't realize that. This is what I have here that I use. The arm broke off, so I've got a penny nail that I use. Kind of adds a little character. Okay, I want to make sure that we hit all these. Coffee is bitter. It's really not. The bitterness comes from over-roasting or from the fact that it's lost all its flavor. And good espresso is really bitter. We covered that. Darker the bean, the better. Not true. Premium coffee has more caffeine. I was talking to an airline pilot at church, and he said that he's a pilot with American, and he said something about coming out of Hawaii. And he said, before I left, he said, I got me some of that Kona coffee. Man, I was wired up all the way back. And that's a myth. I mean, because it's expensive and it's premium coffee, people assume lots of caffeine. Wow, it's really wired me up. About half of that's coming out of your head. So premium coffee has the same or less caffeine typically. And then if you go to a truck stop or something, you're way up there on the caffeine. Okay, we covered the fact that you don't have to be rich to do good coffee. And you can't believe that Best Buy date on the package. Are there any other myths that we didn't cover?
Well, I mean, we covered most of all of them. The myth that people think dark and oily is richer.
Right.
When in fact, most of the time it's not richer. It's have more of the fruit and all the good stuff roasted out of it. The reason Starbucks and others roast dark, real dark, which they never used to do like 10, 12 years ago, is that if you're buying a coffee that's less specialty grade, the darker you roast it, the less you'll recognize what it is you're actually drinking. So they tend to roast a little darker. I think also if you all need any websites, you can always contact one of us. I mean, I'll give you my email. You're welcome to email me, and if you have any questions about what to buy, where to buy it. We just think that you don't have to spend $1 million to make a good cup of drip coffee or French press coffee. I love these kind of devices. This device, by the way.
Oh, yeah, he's got an AeroPress.
This thing, which is kind of looking, basically the principle is that you put filter in the bottom. They're all, you'll notice all this stuff is sort of an offshoot of each other. They're either a press down.
It's a lot like Mexican food. It's the same stuff. It's just arranged differently. Or Italian food. That's the way coffee is.
What's nice about this
That's
is
right.
if you're traveling somewhere, coffee goes stale in 5 minutes.
Do you have a question?
2-hour-old fresh roasted coffee ground will be better than anything you'll buy in a can, if that makes any difference. So let's say you're going off on your bike, going on a trip. You just put your filter in there. Put some your roasted coffee in there. Store it at the top on it, below, goodbye, whatever. Put it in your backpack. When you're ready to make coffee, you just go ahead and I do this backwards. But basically the principle is you put coffee in, you press down, you put just enough water to cover the coffee, about 2 ounces. In essence, you're making kind of an espresso shot. Then you add the hot water, which makes what's called an Americano. If you're going to a cafe, a decent one, like where I don't know where y'all from, but if you go to your normal cafe, if you get, those great big air pots where you normally get coffee and it's been sitting there maybe an hour. If you want a fresher cup of coffee, ask them for an Americano. An Americano is going to be just a double shot of espresso with hot water. Cost you maybe 25 cents more, and it'll be a whole lot better.
I have tried the toddy system, and it makes a really good cup. You put the grounds in with cold water, and you let it rest for 12 hours or so. Have you ever tried one?
Yeah, real acid-free, but
Acid.
very pleasant, especially if you have problems with your stomach. It's really pleasant.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And then you're going to get the pods is the next thing. There are certain pod mates, those bacteria, whatever they are.
Yeah, the single-serve pods.
You can actually use their filter and put fresh ground coffee in it and not have to use the pods which were roasted maybe last summer.
Except that I took a guy's pods at church, and I said, I'm going to try to make you have better coffee, because I tried his, and it was pretty bad. And whatever system he had, they had constructed it so that there was no way to add your own coffee to it. So if you're going to get a single serve, get the kind that you're talking about.
K-E-U-R-I-G, I believe it's called. Those you can actually, if you don't want to use the pods, you can grind your own coffee, put it in. Makes a sweet little cup of coffee, makes it quick.
Are there any other questions? We got about 5 minutes.
$95 or $100 and something when this costs $13. You can make it so it takes you maybe 2 minutes more to make the coffee. So it's trade-off there.
All right. On the bean roast, about 450, isn't it?
Yeah, you generally want to get it to, at first crack, it's going to be at temperature about 400 degrees or so. At first crack. Slowly comes up. First crack at 4 or so. Generally, you'll hear a first crack when the bean temperature, not the air ambient temperature. The bean itself is between 385 and 400, depending on, once again, the hardness of the bean. Colombian bean may take a little more heat. Brazilian bean is going to get the first crack a little quicker.